place is nowhere. And it's forever.
Ghosts of my life.
If you were on TV like Savile was, at that time there were three channels, and living in Britain in the 70s, you would almost everybody would watch one or other of those channels. So whatever they put on, you're getting a very large audience for it. So someone becomes almost de facto popular, not through any actual active affection of the audience, but through the kind of lethargy of the fact that this is the least worst thing on the telly at the moment. And so you'd get large viewing figures. I would imagine, I haven't thought this through, but I would imagine and hope that someone like Savile couldn't really be possible now. Because they wouldn't have the same access to that kind of shared arena where you become a public, an element of general public consciousness.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of Fisher's comments about Tinker Tailor, which is the movie is noticeably not 70s because all the actors are good looking and charismatic. Basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing with in England, of course, it's the bad teeth, the Austin Powers teeth.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up that reminds me of our comparison between Jimmy Savile and Epstein. And it sort of seems like you could be on TV and occupy this kind of minor, ugly, grotesque celebrity while doing all these heinous things. But as time goes by, you almost have to be this entrepreneurial, invest. I don't know. Epstein has a similar position and a similar kind of conspiratorial degree, but it had to be shifted in this other role of like somebody who was just had the money, who you would go to if you need something invested in, and who had a fucking island that you could fly to work incognito around and underneath the spectacle of media and do the same things of like paying off people and getting around the scrutiny, similar to the way that Savile got around scrutinization. Epstein was equally, lacked any scrutiny for decades.
I mean, I think also Cosby is probably an obvious if we want to look to an American analog of a celebrity who was notable as being a family-friendly celebrity that, frankly, you didn't want to think about sexual. I mean, 70s Cosby was a pretty good-looking guy, but yeah, you didn't want to really think about him sexually. You thought of him as your dad and blah, 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 and he had his Kids Say the Darndest Things show, and, then all these allegations that, frankly, were floating around his entire freaking life. I mean, I knew about them since 2004 just because one of the incidents was on the news at one point.
I think it's interesting what Stephen said earlier, that the if you take Epstein as a kind of analog, that there's a progression from the idea of celebrity. So when you were speaking earlier about Savile as a DJ, and you think, well, that is a kind of very libidinal, sexual sort of role. It seems to me that you've kind of hit on a way of thinking about it through Epstein, because Epstein, the culture generally, I suppose you'd have to be careful about drawing too close a comparison between Britain and America or anywhere else. But I think generally there is this shift from a more kind of romantic notion of the artist and the celebrity to a much more entrepreneurial understanding of that, and Epstein does fit into that in that sense, coming as a later figure than Savile. So and that's something that really does infect pop music very much, where people are getting into pop music, musicians who become kind of influencers and this sort of thing. That sense of the entrepreneurial is much more embedded in the culture. So that is an interesting observation. And I guess that the idea of being an international investment,
mogul. I don't know how to describe it.
No.
And the other thing is about the analog is that they both seem to be in secret service or have dodgy relationships with intelligence services and what they're doing and using things as kind of a blackmail. I don't know. I think that yeah, you have to be like Savile was grooming little children or grooming people with his charity in order to gain access to the children, right? And then Epstein is like going to Bill Gates and saying, I will try this project, or he's going to these multi-millionaire, billionaire people and then having these young girls to act as, I guess, the blackmail, but also kind of, I don't know. It's an interesting thing where the difference between the two, because I mean, this is a shift over the course of my lifetime, I guess, right? Or our lifetimes between these. It's weird to think of like international pedophiles as having this, there's multiple ones of them that have come out in the last 10 years, but in different contexts. So
the evolution of the international predatory pedophile.
This place is nowhere. And it's forever.
Ghosts of my life.